Hi, I'm Simon Roderick from Fram Search. I'm delighted to be joined from Jersey today by Ian Cadby, who's the CEO of FinTech. Ian, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Simon. Good to chat. Surviving in this mad world.
And what's lockdown like over in Jersey?
It's a little bit better than in the UK. Obviously, you can go out and exercise whenever you like. There's lots of lovely beaches. But like the UK, the restaurants are still shut. The pubs are shut. So, there's not a lot to do, but nice
No.
beaches. So can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a real bonus, isn't it? Having access to green space and lots of fresh air, I think kind of keeps you mentally refreshed.
Yeah, but we're looking to hopefully roll out this vaccine. So the sooner that comes out, the better it is for everybody, isn't it?
So Ian, I was doing a little bit of research and for this conversation, and I looked on LinkedIn, and I think we first met each other 12 years ago, just before you went off to Harvard for your executive program.
Yeah, that would have been when I was running wealth management and a hedge fund business,
That's
Liberty
exactly right.
Ermitage, and
That's,
you very kindly sourced us some great stuff.
thank you. And I've been thinking since then, it's been quite a journey. So we've had the financial crisis, we've had the Greek crisis, we then had the Scottish referendum and Brexit, and unfortunately we've had this tragic pandemic. So going forwards, I hope that that our luck's about to change. But what is interesting is you've been a CEO throughout that time, and you've really had a front row seat to many of those events, which I hope is going to be fascinating for anybody listening to this. I wonder if you could please give those watching a brief overview of your career and your journey into tech.
Sure. It's been 35-year career, so getting a little bit long in the tooth. And as you say, for most of the career, it's been very much as an investment professional. So started off in sort of on the prop desks at investment banks and in hedge fund land, and very much from a trader's perspective. But what I realized as a user of technology, as a power user, we realized quite quickly when we were at Liberty Ermitage that some of the off-the-shelf technology that are designed by perhaps pure technology geeks. I don't mean to be rude to technologists because they're very bright, but it's maybe not always that user-friendly and maybe lacks in some functionality. So my entree from being a trader and an investment professional to technology was really because when we were running Liberty Ermitage, we were getting pretty frustrated with some of the database systems, and in particular, some of the portfolio construction risk systems. Back then, it was all dominated by VAR, which is a useful tool, but it's very rear view looking. And we wanted some of our own kit. So very kindly, our parent company, Liberty Group South Africa, allowed us to spend some cash. We went and hired our own quants. We hired our own software developers, and we started building our own technology particularly for our hedge fund division. And around about 2010, one of the pieces of technology we developed called optics was spotted by CalPERS in the United States. And they really liked the functionality of this portfolio construction tool. And in 2010, they adopted it for their global equities and hedge fund businesses. It got out to the press, and then sort of the rest is history. Within a few years, we started running money and providing our services for some of the world's largest pension funds and endowments. So it was a really interesting entree from being a pure investment professional that uses tech to then morphing into starting to design your own technology. And then when we sold the business around about 2013, 2014, my business partner and we started thinking, well, what can we do next? And by pure fluke, we then realized that the world was changing for wealth managers in the UK as a result of all the regulatory changes, the emergence of robo players. And that really caught our attention, because we thought, what is this technology now going to be doing to the wealth management space, which, to be fair, historically hadn't been a genre that had spent too much capital on tech. So that was fascinating, and that caused us to spot an opportunity to build technology to assist and help traditional wealth managers, and that was the really birth of Tiller.
What does Tiller do specifically?
So Tiller is or Tiller Group is the parent company, but Tiller Technologies is the company which provides the tech. Is essentially a team of former investment professionals, quants, software engineers, compliance experts, who really got together with a vision to build technology to aid and assist initially the wealth management sector, but now it's indeed any regulated financial service, and to provide them with the tools that we thought they would need going forward, particularly as a result of the inflection point of robo. You know, robo was a really interesting change to the industry. I think traditional wealth managers were right to say that it really wasn't going to steal their revenue, because especially high net worth investors are always going to want to have a human hand on the tiller, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But you know, high net worth individuals definitely want to have a human relationship. But actually what you've seen is they want more than that. They want a human relationship, and they want to have the very best slick, engaging technology interaction, online interaction. And that's what robo brought into the wealth management space. And that's why we created Tiller, because we felt that that would then upstream to existing wealth managers, asset managers, and the like. And that's exactly what's happening. So the type of software that we've built, and we built for our own business, let alone for third-party use, is the latest customer digital onboarding. So you can onboard a customer inside 20-25 minutes, online reporting for your end customers, secure document transfer and messaging, automatic portfolio construction and rebalancing, a whole suite of tools for the wealth management private banking sector. That's essentially what Tiller's raison d'etre is.
Incredible. And you've been a CEO of both an asset management business and obviously now a fintech business. How do you feel the traditional industry of money management will be disrupted by technology? And what is the potential impact on those traditional firms?
Well, again, going back, if you were looking at the press, as we all were in 2016, 17, you looked at various robo firms that were launching in the UK off the back of the sort of betterments and wealth fronts in the US. And there was a lot of talk of how they would disrupt wealth managers. And there was initially some fear that they would steal the business from traditional wealth managers. I think what we've realized, as I said a couple of seconds ago, is that hasn't happened. But what has happened, and where I see it as a positive disruption for traditional wealth managers, is that this technology will be moved across to those traditional wealth managers that sense the advantages of technology. And the advantages, I think, are twofold. So some of the technology I've mentioned that we build at Tiller, it's a sort of technology that can improve the cost-income ratios. I mean, as you know, you've worked in the industry a long time. You know, increasing regulatory pressure has caused some really difficult cost-income ratio problems for a lot of traditional wealth managers. Their costs are getting greater and greater. Margins are always compressed. Indeed, one of the regulators' mandates is to make sure that margins compress, because they want to benefit the end user, the end investor. So you have these dynamics which are headwinds, and some of this technology, whilst an initial capex for firms that they've got to fork out for, over a period of 5 and 10 years will improve their operational efficiency. But just as importantly, and this is a message now which has become particularly resonated for wealth managers post-COVID, just as importantly is technology which will improve the customer experience for their end customer engagement. Because I think we all know we've all got bank accounts, and eventually Barclays, Lloyds, NatWest, all the banks started embracing online capability to check your bank account balance and to move money around. So the banks started moving into that functionality quite a few years ago. And now I think the next 5-10 years, you're going to have to see wealth managers will do the same. But I think it will be a positive inflection point for wealth managers. It'll improve their profitability and will improve their ability to not just pick up customers, but to retain them. Because the other thing that we all know and talk about in our industry in wealth management is the intergenerational loss of assets, as father or mother passes the assets on to the son or daughter who wants to be more online. And if you haven't got that capability, then you could lose that customer, which is not a good thing. So I think it is a disruptive force, but I do see it as a very positive one.
Yeah, and of course, firms are coming in from the fintech world without any legacy issues around the systems that they're creating, I think. I mean, I think certainly a theme of my career has been financial services firms, and what I would call the more traditional space, have always been trying to cobble together various systems that perhaps haven't talked to each other. And so it's possibly an opportunity to bring in newer, better functionality internally, but as you talk about as well, a more enriching client experience and a chance to get the a more competitive cost income ratio, which we all know for the industry has been a challenge over the last few years. I guess that's right. Is it around the tech side? It's that opportunity to have a clean sheet of paper.
Well, yeah, it is. You're absolutely right, Simon. I mean, it's all very well for me to sit here and say that, wealth managers should embrace technology, and, all you got to do is spend a bit of capital, then you can improve your operating performance and your customer engagement. But you do have that issue of how do you do it? Because for a lot of firms, they do have some of the clunky non-cloud-based technology. And where I think the world is going now is very much cloud-based, and it's how you then redesign your offering. You do it in a lot of the very large wealth managers are now using consultants, and the consultant's job is to come in and to map out the requirements and to make sure they do it in an orderly way, which is very scalable and robust.
Yeah, fascinating. And you've obviously worked in both the traditional asset management world and wealth management world, and you've now worked and led a fintech. What do you think as a leader, the different skills that people need for working in fintech versus traditional financial services?
Well, I can tell you from my own personal perspective, having been an investment professional, I had to my first year or so it's such a different space, was just to learn the language. Of the IT space, and it was almost like learning a new language, a foreign language. So that was a transition to really understand how a lot of this cloud-based technology, how it works, and how you resource up to build good technology. But I think one of the other interesting differences between traditional investment management or wealth management is that there does seem to be there is a constant need within fintech in the space we're in for R&D. You build really good technology, but it doesn't stop there. You've got to continue to put capital into R&D to carry on moving the functionality and moving the various services that you're offering, because it's a competitive landscape, so you have to be very agile. Perhaps in a way that wasn't quite so much in the capital markets industry.
Yeah, and it's that arms race, isn't it, to make sure that you're providing clients with the best experience and the best functionality, which, as you say, you need that R&D capability for, in many ways.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and your career's got a theme of being entrepreneurial. I mean, you obviously led the MBO of Ermitage, and you founded Tiller. There are lots of budding fintech entrepreneurs out there in the city. What advice would you give to anyone thinking about starting a fintech business?
Okay, so we've been doing this for 5 years now, and it's been an interesting learning curve. And as you say, I'd sort of set up businesses and sort of did quite a bit of M&A in the past in traditional capital markets, but the fintech space was different, and so you're always learning. I'd say when you start any business, fintech or not, you've got to have a strong vision, and you've got to have a strong constitution. And what I mean by that is you can get carried away with all of the benefits of having your own business and the freedom, if you like, and escaping bureaucracy of a large multinational organization. But then the reality sets in that you've got the day job, whatever your specialism is, and then you've got to do the work at the end of the day job. So what I mean by that is you've got all of the other stakeholders to keep happy, whether it's your shareholders, the employees. You've got to keep them informed and happy. If you're a fintech like us, which I mentioned R&D, you're constantly having to put new capital to push the technology forward. Then you also need to have timely funding rounds as a startup. And that's a sort of a job in and of itself to manage all of that. So it's a complex conundrum. But if you've got a strong vision, if you've done your research, if you developed a good product with a real edge in the marketplace, and you've got the right funding from shareholders, from good shareholders, then you're almost there.
And I think, you know, London's probably at the forefront of that fintech revolution in many ways. Do you continue to see strong demand for fintech investments in terms of, you know, people putting money into the fintech industry? Do you think that's going to continue?
Well, you know, we were doing a funding round. We were due to do a funding round for Tiller in March time of last year, and it was just as COVID had sort of washed across our shores, and UK started going into lockdown. And so, you know, we at Tiller were thinking, you know, how is this going to impact the funding for businesses such as ourselves? But actually, if there is such a thing as getting lucky out of an awful pandemic, and that is, we've now seen, looking back, it's increased the appetite for technology. People have realized that, you know, technology is pretty fundamental in this world that we're living in to enhance productivity of a business. So to answer your question, we ended up 30% oversubscribed on our funding round. So it's been that's been one of the, if not the only, highlight of this awful pandemic.
Yeah, that technology adoption and acceleration has been quite astonishing, actually, to watch.
And you've seen it in the indices. I mean, look at the NASDAQ. I mean, wow. Okay, that sold off in March last year, but then suddenly it accelerated and broken to new highs. So I think that's probably a reflection of how much tech is in demand.
Well, Ian, that's been fascinating. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate your insight and your friendship and support over the last 12 years. And it's been really good to watch you build your business as well. So wishing you well and hope you keep well and your family stay safe as well.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to a beer when lockdown ends.
Take care.